Have you ever stopped to think about this? How do you translate a sacred written text for entire cultures that don't read or write? It's a huge question. And the answer, it turns out, isn't found in some fancy new technology, but in the most powerful and complex tool we've ever known, the human brain. So let's start with a number that might actually shock you. According to UNESCO, at least 13% of the entire world's population is non-literate. Just let that sink in. That's almost 1 billion people who navigate their entire lives, their communities, everything, without the written word. But honestly, that number doesn't even tell the whole story. Because of a global education crisis, there are millions more people who might have gone to school but still can't really engage with complex texts. We call this functional illiteracy. So for them, and for these primarily oral cultures, the spoken word isn't just a preference, it's everything. It's how knowledge is truly shared and understood. And this quote from scholar Romerlito Macalinao just hits the nail on the head. The traditional way of doing things, translating a book and just handing it over, it just flat out doesn't work for billions of people. So what do? How do you possibly bridge that gap? Well, to find the answer, we have to do something really important first. We need to step into their world. And it's not a world that's lacking something, not at all. It's a world that runs on a completely different and, equally sophisticated set of rules. The big difference, and you can see it right here, is where knowledge lives. For us, in literate cultures, we've externalized it. It's in books, on servers. But for oral cultures, knowledge is internal. It's stored in the collective memory of the people, and it's passed down through story, song, and community events. Learning isn't something you do alone in a library. It's a group activity. The scholar Walter Ong had a great term for this, primary orality. And this is so important. It's not a deficit. It's a complete, complex way of life where human memory, powerful storytelling, and the bonds of community are the technologies that preserve wisdom. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial distinction. For a long time, the main approach was just to tell Bible stories orally. But to create an accurate, authoritative scripture in a spoken form, that required something way more rigorous. This is the difference between simply storying and actually translating. Here's the key difference. Oral Bible storying, or OBS, that's a powerful way to engage people, kind of like a performance. But oral Bible translation, OBT, that's a formal discipline process. It involves deep analysis of the text and something called internalization to create a translation that can be stored perfectly in memory, word for word. And this is where things get really, really cool. The key to making OBT work isn't software or a printing press. It's the incredible, hardwired translation engine that already exists inside every single one of our skulls. Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? How is that even possible? How can someone hold huge amounts of text in their head, check it for accuracy, and then translate it into a whole other language, all without writing down a single word? I mean, it sounds like a superpower, but it's just pure neuroscience at work. It all starts with the hippocampus. Think of this as the brain's master librarian. It doesn't just store random facts. It files away complex stories and experiences, locking them into long-term memory. This is the brain's hard drive for narrative, which makes these stories incredibly resistant to being forgotten. Next up, you've got the thalamus. This is like the brain's central traffic controller. As the translator hears the original text, the thalamus is directing all that information to the right places for processing. Then it coordinates the signals for speaking the new translation. It's the hub for the whole operation. And this one is absolutely critical, the hypothalamus. This is the brain's emotional core. And why does that matter so much? Because neuroscience tells us that emotion is basically super glue for memory. When a story connects with us emotionally, our brain codes it way more deeply and permanently. So, we have the brain's hardware, but what about the software? Well, it turns out most of the world comes pre-installed with it. Get this, a combined 60% of the world's population is either bilingual or multilingual. That's right. If you only speak one language, you are in the global minority. For most people on this planet, switching between multiple languages is just normal. Their brains are already primed for exactly this kind of work. And this creates what scientists call the bilingual advantage. See, when you have two languages that are always active in your mind, your brain gets a constant workout. It's always managing interference, switching contexts, paying super close attention, And that strengthens the exact cognitive muscles, like attention and inhibition, that you need for the intense mental task of oral translation. So we've got this incredible natural capacity built right in. The next step is to train it. How do you take all that raw brain power and focus it through a deliberate, structured process to make sure the translation is absolutely accurate? Well, the key is a concept called metacognition. It sounds complicated, but it literally just means thinking about your thinking. So instead of just passively listening to a text, this process guides the translator to actively analyze it, visualize it, and connect with it. It's about taking conscious control of how you learn. And here's how it actually works. First up is comprehension. The translators just break down the passage with the basic questions. Who's talking? What's happening? Where is it? This builds a solid blueprint. Next, visualization. They use that blueprint to create a detailed mental movie of the whole scene. And finally, and this is probably the most important step, interiorization. This is where they connect with the story on an emotional level. They make it part of their own inner world. Suddenly, the text isn't just words anymore, it's a lived experience.
Okay, so we've looked at the culture, the neuroscience, the method, but let's bring it all home. Why does this work matter so much? What's the big picture here?
This quote, I think, just captures the heart of it all. This isn't just some technical linguistic exercise. For the communities doing this work, it's a deep spiritual encounter. The whole point is transformation, not just information.
And that's why the ultimate goal isn't to just produce an audio file or an oral book. The goal is for the local community, the local church, to own the entire process. Because when they are the ones translating the scriptures they need for their own teaching, their worship, their community life, it becomes a living, breathing part of who they are from day one.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. For those of us who are just surrounded by text all day, this whole process is a powerful reminder. If the full meaning, the accuracy, the emotion of a text can be held and transmitted entirely within the human mind, what does that reveal about the true power of our own memory? And what might we be missing in our constant reliance on the printed page?